Welcome to episode 83 of the Ski Podcast, and thanks for joining us, listener. As always, we have a lot of ski-related chat for you in this episode, including the latest travel news, and we have some very immediate updates, snow reports from around the Alps, news of a new ski app, and an in-depth look into skiing for women. Plus, I might add, this will be the fifth episode in a row where we featured an Olympian on board. I'd like to thank Switzerland Tourism for sponsoring the podcast. And in the light of COP26, probably a good time to mention the Sustainable project. Longer term listeners might remember in episode 72, we had Alex Herman from Switzerland Tourism who was talking about that. And I've just been writing a blog post for one of my clients in Zermatt about it recently. And if you just have a look, have a little Google for Sustainable. Essentially, Switzerland are trying to position themselves as the most sustainable destination in the world, which according to some surveys, they already are. And they started that process this year in 2021 with the goal of having that in place by 2023. Apart from the fact, obviously, train travel around the country is excellent. Have a lot of projects underway. So have a look at that and have a think about Switzerland for your next trip. Now, my name's Ian Martin. I'd like to introduce my guest today. It's another episode with a big turnout. As Al just said to me in the green room, it seems to be getting bigger and bigger. But let's start with Katie Dobson, the ski goddess. We'll be finding more about that later. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent. We've also got a regular guest of the podcast, Graham Bell, with us, joined today by his business partner, Sam Lynch. Hi, Graham. Are you all right?
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us this morning. And Sam, nice to have you on the podcast. How are you going?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Now, also on the line today, we've got Katie Crow from Battleface Travel Insurance. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
And also, finally, rounding the team off, equipment expert Al Morgan from skikitinfo.com. Hi, Al.
Morning, Ian.
Right, skipping Katie now, because I know your answers. Let's start by finding out when you skied or snowboarded last. What about you, Katie? When were you last on snow?
Last time I was on snow was, well, actually, I'm pretty lucky because I'm based in Chatel, which is on the Swiss border. So although I sadly couldn't have any of my lovely ladies out last season, I did get to hop over to Morjan and get on the snow.
I remember last season that Chatel almost made itself Swiss for a while, because didn't the town hall put up Swiss flags on the outside of the town hall?
It did, yes. There was lots of hoo-ha and look, the village was a bit divided because a lot of people thought we should just behave and do the French abide by the French rules, which is fair enough. And then a lot of people were like, they're opening, we should just get on with it. And we're just there. So, there was a bit of hoo-ha.
Well, as it goes, I know Chatel pretty well because I did my first ski season there in 1988-89. So I know that it's literally, a 10-minute drive to get from Chatel to Morjan?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I was a ski guide at the time for Bladen Lines, and one of the days out we used to do was the full Tour de Porte de Soleil. And you'd go round to through to Les Landerets and Morsey and Avoriaz and round. And the final segment would be back from Morjan. And you had to get the guests up a very tricky T-bar or possibly even a drag lift at that time. And if they couldn't make it one time, we had to get a bus to come and pick us up from Morjan, which was disappointing and expensive. Graham, let's move on to you. When did you last ski?
I was last skiing on the glacier in Zermatt, 17th of October with Sam, actually, filming some content for Perfect Turns for our ski coaching and ski fitness app. But I was killing two birds with one stone, trying to be as green as possible. I was filming for Carve, the insole technology people, and also filming for the BBC for a feature for Ski Sunday next winter, which features the Gherkin Schofields, who grew up in Chatel.
Certainly you're going to be the most recent of us to have got on snow, because 18th of October, not bad. That was a month ago. And Sam, you were there as well. So I know that you skied a month ago. What about before that? When was your last trip or time on snow before that then?
Yeah, about 2 years ago. So the first run, I definitely had the nervous sort of, what's this first run going to be like back on snow? But it was absolutely brilliant, just as good as ever. So yes, 2 years for me.
Yeah, well, I know it was as good as ever because I've seen your video, the little intro video, but we'll come on to that later when we talk about the Perfect Terms app. Let's have a little chat about what the travel situation is. Katie, we often start off the show with everything planned and we know what we're going to say. And in the last 15 minutes, there have been quite a lot of new developments. Where should we start? Let's start off with boosters. That seems to be a bit of a question recently. There is some good news, which has come today.
Yeah, that's right. We've been talking about families and the complexities and the problems that they're facing this winter. And the Sunday Times and the Times have been all over this issue. On Saturday, they outlined that under 16s are not eligible to get the NHS COVID pass to show they've been vaccinated or have a negative COVID status. And the problem is that countries such as France and Italy demand that over 12s provide a proof of negative COVID-19 status or proof of vaccination, or they'd pay for a lateral flow test to get a temporary pass every 2 days. And also entry into these countries is also dependent on a pass or a negative test. It's quite a tricky time for these families looking to go skiing this winter.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to clarify, since our last podcast, the good news is that the NHS pass is accepted within the EU as an equivalent to the COVID green pass that happens over there. But I think this morning they announced, or the NHS announced, that booster jabs are now going to be shown within that NHS app, which is going to make things a little easier. But the key question that you're talking about there, and that we've been flagging for ages, and I find it interesting that the rest of the media seems to be catching up with this story, but we've been saying, if you're a family and you're going on holiday, those issues that you're mentioning there, you're not fully vaccinated if you've only had one, and therefore you have to have regular tests during the course of your holiday.
Yeah, exactly. And also youngsters between 12 and 15 might also face difficulties if they've tested positive in the previous 90 days before travel, as the inactive virus still shows up in testing in some cases, even if they've been vaccinated, as they can't use the NHS app. And as you say, Ian, it wasn't going to be good for the older demographic either, as the COVID pass didn't show evidence of the third booster. But as of today, the government has said that the booster jab will be included in the COVID travel pass, although not yet on the domestic pass. And they said that this could be as early as today. So this is really important, as Brits who are in France over 65 who've not had a COVID booster would have been banned from restaurants and attractions from the 15th of December.
Yeah, I mean, the whole situation, as always, remains dynamic. And I think the advice is to keep checking, but to maybe put it into a context. We have some friends who are going to Italy at New Year. The adults are fully vaccinated. The children, evidently aren't being under 18. So they will need to have regular negative tests during the course of the week. Having said that, I was talking to some friends of mine yesterday who went to Rome at half term, and I don't know if the rules have changed since half term, but they were in Rome. They went to the Colosseum and they went to the Vatican, and they had a 12-year-old with them who'd had one jab, no NHS app or whatever. And they just showed a printout of the email saying he'd had a jab, and they were let in to places, and they weren't checked at any restaurants. Now, that's anecdotal evidence of it not being applied in Italy's capital city. Whether or not that's going to be different at all elsewhere, I don't know. Katie, ski goddess, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just really relieved to hear this about the boosters being shown on the travel pass. And because in France, from what you were saying, Ian, in Chatel here and everywhere I go, we have to show our passes every time. So some of my goddesses have phoned up saying, I'm over 65 because my age bracket is up to 70 or more sometimes. And I was just envisaging going into the restaurants up the mountain, but leaving the older lady standing outside. I was like, this isn't going to work.
I think there's a big disconnect between what governments are suggesting people do and what countries are actually doing. It was the same when I was in Japan. The rules were such that you weren't allowed to serve alcohol in restaurants, but that if you knew where to look, there were certain restaurants that would serve alcohol. And of course, we all flocked to those, and it went around on our own social media where that's where to go. And it was the same in Italy. It was the same when we went to Zermatt. We heard that one person had gone into the Brown Cow, ordered a couple of beers. They asked for the Swiss app. They said, no, we've got the NHS app. They said, well, that doesn't work. And they said, well, you can't have the beers. And they said, well, we'll go somewhere that does. And so they just walked out. And we went to the Bar 55, and they didn't bother checking at all. Or they did. They asked us, oh, I presume you've got the app. And we go, yes, we have.
Yeah, I think the rules might have changed in Switzerland in that the NHS app is now accepted.
And that was about 2 days after I bought the Swiss one.
I had the same experience going to Mallorca in the summer. They didn't even check the app, the pass. They just let us through. I mean, it would go through all this rigmarole, and we had to pay for express PCR tests, £210 each.
And the latest news that we've also had in the last 15 minutes is that Austria has announced that it's going to go into lockdown starting from Monday for a minimum of 10 days. And in addition to that, vaccinations are going to be made compulsory from the 1st of February. Both of those two are pretty big news. I think let's just stick. I haven't had much time to react to this, but Katie, what do you think the impact of that is going to be on British people taking ski holidays in Austria?
Well, I think they're going to stop and think. I mean, it's breaking news. I'm just on the live travel blog now, on the Telegraph's travel blog, and they are going to, as you say, they're going to become the first European country to go back into full lockdown. I think other countries may follow suit. We may have Germany by Monday, by the time you air this podcast, announcing other strict measures. And as Graham said earlier, probably a good thing they're going to get it out of the way sooner rather than later, so that, we can all get on with Christmas. And also they're actually making COVID vaccinations compulsory, which is seriously big news, and the first country to be doing this.
For sure. I think that kind of goes beyond the remit of the ski podcast, that one. It's certainly quite surprising news, but let's be optimistic and hope that that can tie things up before Christmas, because as Graham mentioned to us in the green room, it's extremely important to Austria to be able to be open for Christmas. So let's hope that is the case, but it's certainly concerning. This time last year we were talking about, when will ski resorts open? Will ski resorts open? But, let's not forget that the season has, started already. Graham and Sam were skiing in Zermatt not so long ago. There's glaciers open already. You've got Val Thorens opening 30% of their ski area tomorrow. Montgenèvre, who don't normally open early, are opening this weekend as well. So we actually have 3 snow reports for you this week. We've got Dave Burrows, presenter of the Ski Instructor podcast and from Snow Pro Ski School. He reports from Glacier 3000 in Switzerland. Then Alex Armand from Tip Top Ski in Ladies Out. And then finally Keith Webb, who is a listener to the show, contacted me. He's out in Kaprun just now.
Hello Ian, it's Dave Burrows from Snow Pro Ski School. I'm here at Glacier 3000 with my colleague Magic Mike from Villa. How are you?
Good morning, very well. Fantastic conditions up here on Glacier 3000 above the Ableré.
Yeah, that squeaky noise that you can hear is our skis going along, because we're heading up the second T-bar, the one that's got access to a couple of reasonably steep slopes. They're pretty good for this time of year. And the snow is... How is the snow? Tell me about it.
Very nice. It's quite grippy. There's a few rocks on the steeper red run underneath the chairlift, but on the actual blue, really well groomed and pisted, and fantastic for early season, preparing your turns and getting ready for the season ahead.
Yeah, it's true. I'm feeling quite good right now. I'm like a blue run demolisher. Makes me my blue run hero, I think is the word. So that's us. I'm not sure what date is today. It's early November, and blue skies, beautiful blue skies. Great day for skiing. Snow's good here in Switzerland. Just an update on the COVID stuff. In Switzerland, there are no COVID passes required for going skiing. Isn't that right? And what are the rules about interior lifts, Mike?
On the gondolas, so the cable cars, you need to wear your mask, but on the T-bars and chairlifts, you don't need any masks at all. Fresh Swiss alpine air.
So yeah, that's slightly different to Italy, because I understand they're doing the whole green pass thing for skiing, and I'm not sure what France have decided to do. But here in Switzerland, we are skiing. So hope you're well. Keep up the good work with the pod, Ian, and we will speak to you soon. Bye.
Good morning. This is Alex Armand from Tip Top Ski Coaching and Les Deux Alpes with an update from our Toussaint opening of the glacier here in Les Deux Alpes. Well, how lucky have we been? The season started with the first week of corduroy piste up on the glacier, the snow level only to 3,200 metres, and the second week brought winter with the snow line descending all the way to resort level. That's 1,650 metres. So the first week was absolutely magnificent, with perfect skiing, perfect mountain biking in resort, and of course those beautiful autumn colours hitting the white snow line. The second week, when winter arrived and the snow line, we watched the snow line descend, was just a fantastic feeling of excitement towards this season coming. The resort has temporarily closed and will reopen on the 27th of November, so we look forward to skiing with you then.
Hi Ian, this is Keith Webb with an update on the snow conditions in Zellamzee and Capron area. Early snowfall in November left us with some pretty good conditions up on the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier, and with no appreciable new snow since probably about the 5th of November. Things are starting to get a bit thin. It has been warm over the last week as well, so things have consolidated, but we've managed to create a fair bit of artificial snow overnight, so things are still looking pretty decent for what is mid-November after all. Zellamzee area is due to open 26th of November, although having a look at the area right now, that seems to be pretty unlikely unless we get a drop in temperatures and they can create a lot of artificial. But we'll wait and see what happens. On the COVID situation, Austria is in the 2G rules, which means that basically you have to have a certificate that says you've been vaccinated or you have recovered from the condition. This gets added onto your lift pass the first time you use it, and then it's just situation normal. You just continue with your lift pass, no further checks. You got to wear the masks in the gondolas and the restaurants, of course, but I think we'll all be used to that for the rest of the season. So yeah, everything's going well, and hope to see you out here soon.
So, I mean, that's quite exciting. You know, people are out there skiing, and there are going to be more people skiing from this weekend. So thoughts are turning to the winter and resorts opening every day. We'll be back on snow soon. So how do you get the most out of your time on it? Well, it's great to have Graham back on the show. We've had you on before. We talked about dancing on ice and Team GB, Ski Sunday, etc. But you've got Sam with us today. You've launched a new app, aspirationally called Perfect Turns. Now, I've got a lot of apps on my phone already, Graham. Can you explain what Perfect Turns does? How is it going to help me ski better?
Well, it's a combination between a ski fitness app, which will prepare you for skiing, but it's also a virtual ski coaching app as well. So the idea being is then once you go skiing, you can upload videos of yourself skiing. I will then analyze them, or we will then analyze them, and then send you back that analysis plus tips or drills to do the following day. And actually, it's already in process because one of our subscribers, one of our clients, is out in Zermatt doing a Basie level 2 course, and has sent a couple of videos back over the course of this week.
Right, that's exciting. So I read on the app, there's kind of different levels, aren't there, of subscription? Is that the kind of top level where you'd send in a video and you get it analysed and sent back to them?
That's all. Yeah, that's included in the top level. But or you can do what this client did and buy it as a bolt-on. So you get a certain amount included, and then the virtual stuff, the ski coaching you can get as an additional.
And Sam, I read all the info about the app, and I was fascinated on there to see that you've represented the country in a few different sports, as well as being like a Bayesian instructor yourself. Could you give us a bit of info about your background?
Sure. So obviously skiing is my world. All of us on here are passionate about it. I was very fortunate to ski when I was younger. And so I went on to do my degree in coaching. And my actual dissertation was surrounding coaching methodologies within the UK and how to get the most out of people, especially when they're not in that environment all the time. I've set up a separate coaching business, which is great that I get to work with people so closely. So it makes sense really to marry the two together. And obviously with Graham's expertise and his history, it works very, very well. And
so has the app already launched? Can people, well, I guess it must have. You have this chap out in Zermatt, so people can download it to their phones and then decide what kind of subscription they want to go for?
Yeah, so you do that through the website, perfectturns.co.uk. And the reason we went for Perfect Turns is because of the PT. And so,
being a personal trainer and
personal trainer / Perfect Turns. And we also wanted to be able to kind of have a name that was that could be used for both skiing and snowboarding.
Okay. And I noticed in the details about the app, it says that you have a face-to-face initial consultation. Is that like in real life, or is that like we're doing now via video or something like that?
Well, yes, it's in by video. One of our clients actually lives in the same town as me, so I've already been around to see him face to face. So it depends how close you are.
Okay. And you mentioned when you're in Zermatt, you were looking at the Carve piece of software. Is that something that gets employed into Perfect Turns as well?
If you've got Carve, that's the thing with Carve is that you've got to have them in your boots. And if you don't, then we can't use it. So we're not really kind of setting up to use Carve as such with every customer. But if you've got them, then it's good to see the data as well. It's just another way of getting the data. Like, for example, if you've got a Skier's Edge machine, we've written some programs that you can do on the Skier's Edge, because I import the Skier's Edge and have done since 2003, and one of our customers has a Skier's Edge, so it makes sense to write those things in together.
Sure. So you can personalize it for everyone. And just to clarify, that Skier's Edge, I think people, if they've been to the ski shows, they'll probably have seen you demonstrating it. It's, I'm trying to think how I can describe it, but it's
a lateral ski training machine.
There you go, a lateral ski training machine. It's very hard work is what I recall of it.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very anaerobic.
But it replicates skiing in a much better way than you can do otherwise.
I thought I'd just sort of add in as well is that what we're trying to do is allow people within the UK to access fitness towards skiing, more specifically towards skiing, all year round. So even though we've got the season now, which we're starting, which is really exciting, this gives people an opportunity to be focused on the year to come all year round. So that's sort of sets us apart a little bit as far as what we're doing.
And Sam, if there's a client who signs up, do you decide between you who is going to look after them, or do they have a bit of Sam and a bit of Graham? How does it work?
We like sharing. Yeah, they get both of us. So dependent on, and a lot of people generally have a good idea as to where they are. So we let people kind of self-assess for the most part, and then we would recommend what might be best for them on the kind of the sign-up process. Once they've done that, Graham and I obviously have different skill sets, both men and women as well, that bring advice into it. So they get support from both of us.
So, Graham's obviously an Olympic athlete. You've had, high level representation as well. Is this app mainly for, better skiers, or would it work for, aspiring, early intermediates as well?
So we want people to be able to access this once they're past the initial ski lessons. So beginners, there is a lot of support and there is a lot of instruction out there, which is perfect for that. What we want to do is to produce something which is more long-term and continual development. So they have an opportunity once they're sort of getting around the mountain a fair bit, they can then feel confident at accessing the whole mountain and bettering, because quite often people will hit a plateau and they're not sure, unless they hire a private instructor for the day, what their next step is. So what we do is fill that gap, and we allow continual development season upon season with the same coaches.
Excellent.
We have on the silver package, we have I think 9 different options. So we're looking at blue run skiers, red run skiers, black run skiers, and then once you've chosen what type of skier, what kind of level of skier you are, you can then choose what what kind of fitness level you want to come in at, whether you're a kind of a starter, regular trainer, or if you're up at performance level. So on that automated side, on the silver and the bronze, there are, I think, 12 different kind of groups that you can come into. And then the gold package is very much personalized individual training.
So if people want to download the app, they can do that now on Android and iPhone?
Yep, on Android and iPhone. And but the main thing is to get the subscription through the website, because otherwise you'll just download the app.
Right.
Perfect
Gotcha.
Turns, and it'll ask for your login details, which you've got to go to the website to do.
Okay, and what's the website URL?
perfectturns.co.uk.
Well, I will have a look at that in more detail. And thanks very much for sharing that with us today. I'll be really interested to hear how it goes. I'm going to move on now, if we can, to Katie Ski Goddess, as opposed to Katie from Battleface. Sam mentioned just then that, how women or female and male skiers will be treated will be slightly different. Now, when I was at the National Snow Show at the NEC last month, I was wandering around and looking at all of the stands, and there was one stand that stood out in particular, manned, if that's the right word, as it was, by 2 Greek goddesses. And you might think I'm speaking metaphorically, but literally there were 2 women dressed as goddesses with laurel wreaths on their heads. And one of them was Katie, and we started this conversation. And that's why we're here today. So firstly, I want to congratulate you on making such an impact. Brilliant branding, because your business is called Ski Goddess, isn't it? How did you find the show?
I loved it. It was very, very busy, and I didn't stop talking for 2 days, which was a lot for me, even, because I love talking. But
tell us a little bit more about Ski Goddess then. Why is it called that? What do you offer skiers?
Well, I wanted to provide women with a space where they could come out, to be taken out of their normal ski holiday, whatever that looks like. Often families, often groups, and quite often the person who's phoning me up, it will be the person that's struggling the most in that group. And the whole holiday can end up being a bit stressful, which is not the idea at all, right? So Ski Goddess,
no one wants a stressful ski holiday. How can you help people get past that then?
Well, I just remove them from that environment.
Right.
Leave your husbands and kids and friends at home, and just come out on your own. We create a really warm, friendly, fun environment to just so that the ladies can focus purely on their skiing and themselves. It's a package holiday as well, so it's a luxury ski holiday as well, and then the ski training course inside of that. So they don't have to think about anything. They just get on the plane, meet everybody, and come, and then we just walk them through their progress.
Excellent. And you're based in Chatel, in the Port du Soleil ski area you mentioned earlier.
That's right. Yes.
So is it a catered chalet accommodation?
Top chef and all that shebang.
Excellent. So really, actually, certainly for my wife, the idea of a chalet holiday really appeals to her. The idea of not doing any cooking at all. I put my hand up and say I don't do any of the cooking myself. So a chalet holiday is perfect in that respect. That solves one problem straight away.
Definitely. So as I say, it is, we just take out all the effort. I think a lot of the time the stress of a ski holiday for the women starts way before the holiday. with organising it and their clothes, kids' clothes. How are they going to, if they're self-catering, how are they going to manage that? They're going to somewhere where they don't know. It's just a whole load of stuff to deal with that. I remember one of my recent clients booking, I just wrote down she was just telling me, I've got this vision of what my ski holiday should look like. And so there's this vision of the dream ski holiday versus the truth. And, her vision is that she's wearing stylish ski wear and swishing short turns down a well-groomed red run with her 2 kids following neatly behind, gracefully stopping at a mountain restaurant while husband hands her a van show and says, "You looked amazing down there, darling." and the reality is actually wiping snot, finding lost gloves, rushing around to make ski school, sweating whilst carrying your own skis and 2 kids' skis, forgetting about your own skiing until you suddenly end up on that sketchy red, have a panic attack, and divorce is considered.
Well, that's probably the best sales message you could deliver. It sounds very, very convincing, and I certainly know that thing. I was saying to someone the other day who was thinking about taking their family for the first time skiing, and I said, personally, we never booked, after we experienced it, we never booked kids' ski school in the morning. Because if you spend all of your life rushing to try and get your kids on the school run and get them to school by a certain time, why do you want to replicate that on your ski holiday as well? Much better to have a, lazier start to the morning, do a little bit of skiing together and then let them do the afternoon skiing. But that's just my personal experience of that. And in terms of the actual lessons or structure of the holiday itself, I mean, how are you helping female skiers move that level up and build confidence? I can see that the environment you're talking about, sounds great, but specifically on the snow, what are you looking at?
Yeah, well, exactly. The environment is so important, and that's one hurdle covered. But then I think because of that environment, a lot of the women think that they've really lost their confidence. And in some cases they have. But a lot of the time, it's just that they have not had the chance to really look at their technique. And, for one reason or another, that is not a priority on their ski holidays anymore. And so I always start with technique, because they phone me up and tell me about they've suddenly lost their confidence and everything. But and the old strapline skiing is 80% in your head, and I just go, whoa, okay. I think it's really loads about what's going on with your technique. We just go through the days. We'd normally have a different theme each day to build on. Maybe the first day is posture, maybe the second day is turn shape, movement on the third day, and then we might be rhythm and flow on the fourth day. We just really consistently provide small building blocks in a really fun way that they quite dramatically change how they ski, and then go, oh, that feels more stable, stronger, better, smoother. And then the confidence goes whoop, up, 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 up. And we can build that upward spiral that way. Excellent.
And that, the environment obviously helps. Sam, could I just bring you in at this point? I think you had something to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I love that that's a focus for you, especially sort of getting the head in the right place. Because if you're stressed and you're running about everywhere, you've not got time to think about developing your own technique and improving. So I love that is part of what you do, and I'm sure so many people and women benefit from that. It's fantastic.
Yes, it is. And I like to get the foundations right in terms of environment and learning building blocks. But as you say, the mind stress thing, there's so many things at play at this time of life. My ladies are usually sort of 40 to 60, and I also teach a mindfulness technique called sophrology. So I bring that into the lessons, and actually weeks before they come on the holiday, we're doing stuff to help your mind enhance your experience rather than hinder you, which is what it does a lot of the time, going, I can't do this, what's going to happen down here, there's a bit of ice, I'll probably fall. All of those things are creating negative hormones in your body, and then causing you to stiffen up and lean back and all that stuff. So yeah, we just try and cover it from all angles, basically.
I haven't had the opportunity to Google this now, but I'm sure I've read about sophrology before as being kind of an understanding of the trees. And am I imagining that?
I don't remember that so much in my training.
But tell me what sophrology is.
It's a sort of mixture of all sorts of mindfulness techniques, but ultimately we use breathing exercises, movement exercises, and guided visualizations to focus and train your mind to work in your favor, basically.
Right, excellent. Katie Battleface, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, that's really interesting because you're the first person I've heard speak about sophrology, but I've got quite a few friends in France who really swear by it. It's really taken off in France compared to the UK, hasn't it? It's not really taken off over here.
Yeah, well, it originated from Spain and then moved over. Interestingly, the reason why it spread so fast across Europe was because, long story short, the Swiss ski team, hard to say that, back in the day, this was 50 years ago, the Swiss ski team started using the techniques and went from bottom of the rankings to top in 2 seasons. So it just went through the sports arena, and then it went back into its original place, which is mental health. But it was obviously taught in Spanish and French. So then it finally got to the UK, and I was in one of the first training group to qualify in it in English.
That is interesting. While you were talking just then, I did go and Google it, and I found what I was referring to. And I'm not going mad.
Okay.
There's an article from around a year ago where, let's see, Mon Cheval Les Coches have introduced appreciating the natural power of trees, a kind of arboreal sophrology. Trees help humans transmit their energies, etc. So it wasn't quite sophrology, but it's almost there, and it does exist. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. That is really interesting, all of that side of things. Now, you mentioned the technical side of things. I'm going to bring in Al now, and we're going to have a little more of a discussion. A couple of episodes ago, excuse me, Al mentioned that he's been skied on women's skis during some of the ski tests, and this seems like the perfect episode to discuss women's skis in more detail. Here's a simple question for you, Al. How are women's skis different from men's skis?
I think this is a hot topic. I mean, in this world, in the modern world, we look at so many areas of our lives when gender, we don't just look at man or woman. Even when we're looking at sex specifically, then we look at more than just male and female. So it's interesting. In skis, we either look at men's and women's skis or unisex and women's skis, which in itself I find quite confusing. So. But, it really helps with people kind of finding a product that's going to work well for them. Some of it's around marketing. Some of it sometimes is just a color change. But for the vast majority of brands, and especially when we're looking at piste-focused skis, so firm snow performance or all mountain, it's going to work on firm snow and off the sides, then the construction of the skis, the design, the binding placement, many parts of that ski can be tailored to, let's say, the female physiology. Center of gravity, center of mass might be slightly further back and lower down, and therefore you want to help drive power through the front of the ski. So sometimes brands will push the binding forward. Sometimes you'll see a different stiffness, flex pattern through the ski. But generally, with kind of broad strokes here, ladies' skis will have a different or a softer construction. So they might use different woods in it, because men are generally dense, excuse the pun. So men generally have a heavier mass. Ladies are generally a bit lighter. So that comes into play. But also when you watch people ski, men often get through the turns with aggression and brute force and possibly a bit of ignorance, certainly in my case. And then when, if I watch my wife ski, she's got much more style, much more finesse, she's much more accurate with her placements, but she doesn't have the same mass to bend the ski. So for her, then having that kind of construction with a softer flex pattern and maybe, helping to get the mass through the front of the ski works really well.
So many things you're saying there I find really interesting. Firstly, I assume your wife listens to the podcast, so you dropped that bit in especially for her, have you?
Of course.
But when you skied on, let's say, women's skis, for you then, what difference do you notice in how they ski for you when you're testing them? if you're comparing them to the men's model, for example?
Yeah, so often it's in a shorter length, so that straight away has an impact on how it skis, even though it may have a different construction. If I'm going to test the men's model, the sample may be in a 170 or 177 length, whereas the equivalent ladies version, yes, it might be a really different ski. They're joy skis, all about women, pure construction for female skiers. But if I was going to ski a sample of, let's say, one of the Head Joy models, it would be in a shorter ski. So it may be in a 149 or 156 or 162. So straight away, it's going to be easier to turn. And then you start to notice things like the flex pattern. So it might be, easier to release the tail, whereas with a man ski, binding placement, center mass, all of that, it'd be different to ski for a woman to get on the same ski. If you look at race, I mean, Graham, you know all about this. You've been testing skis for years as well. Race product is, for general retail race skis, there isn't a man's and a woman's ski. But then when you get up to top level, the skis are tailored to the skier. I don't view it so much as being about a man or a woman at that elite level. It's about the specific skier.
Yeah, for example, Kristoffersen would ski on much softer skis because of the way his style of skiing is. He skis around a line on the turn, so he will have more subtlety, more feeling than, say, another slalom skier who's a lot more aggressive. Snowheads, the big Swiss 6'5" monster, is going to be on completely different skis, completely different construction of skis than Kristoffersen.
And I think this is really, really relevant when it comes into normal skis. It's not so much about, how you view your gender. It's more about your physiology, your skiing. If we look at faction, I know we've spoken about faction skis in the past. They do an X ranges, which is what people think of as their women's skis. They're exactly the same skis as the men's. Faction talk about this a lot. It can be a different graphic and different length options. And I know quite a lot of men that will ski on a Faction X model because they may prefer the graphic or they want a shorter ski. So that classic stereotype of lady skis being, lacy and kind of powder colors and men's being, more far darker colors. I think we are moving away from that, and lots of brands are.
It doesn't surprise me to hear that, with gender being much more of a topic than, let's say, it used to be. Katie, ski goddess, can I come back to you? When you have your your goddesses on your trips, are you specifically helping them to choose skis or to get the right kind of skis from the hire shop that's going to work for them from a physiological point of view?
Yes. And basically, just over the years, we've just found what works best for them, for the vast majority of them. And ultimately, it's just an all mountain ski that actually, I think it's a bit twin tippy even. And they do go on the Head Joys as well.
So generally, you're looking at specific skis for them that you would take them towards.
Yes, and just I think a lot of women can get sold a really skinny ski in the middle, or like kind of, I suppose, going towards slalom ski. But I always get them on something a bit wider underfoot because it just makes life so much easier for them. Sorry,
for sure,
in an all-round way,
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah, I think, Al, you make some important points about not just the aesthetic of the ski, but also the performance. And I'd personally say that I tend to steer away from anything that has pink or anything near lace, because I'm like, no, I want to ski aggressively. I want to get the most out of my ski. So actually, from a marketing perspective, if that's the intention, that would tend to push me away more. And I'd be like, no, I want something which looks a certain way. Obviously, I know the performance of the ski. But in my mind, I think of, the pink tax, and I think of, how women already in other areas of life are having to foot just for the sake of it looking feminine. I'm definitely would steer towards performance, and that would attract me more.
Katie?
And there's nothing wrong with pink, though, is there?
Is that so? Does hold on,
Nothing wrong with pink.
The pink tax that differs from the pink pound, does it? Because the pink pound, I thought was the disposable income for gay men, wasn't it? The pink pound. How does the pink tax work?
I think it definitely does differentiate. No, definitely no issues with pink, but generally for things that you purchase, if, for example, razors, if your razor is pink and your razor is blue, I will always buy men's razors, just so everyone knows. Men's razors do exactly the same job. And so maybe perhaps that comparison can be with skis.
Al?
I just want to add something in about the skis. Often, especially Sam, you're talking about performance. With testing product, and something that became apparent really early on in testing, I've been doing it for a long time, and we have some amazing testers, Olympic level skiers, and they are used to being on really punchy, really aggressive skis. And it's amazing when you get new testers in that are of that caliber. I don't really want to get on a lead ski. I want a punchy, aggressive ski. So there's that mindset around what we view as a female ski. And then they get on them and are blown away by how they ski. So certainly, I think people need to steer away from thinking that female skis don't perform, because they are incredible. And also, you know, if you have a really sensitive touch in your skiing, maybe you're a lighter weight male, don't be afraid to look at their female branded skis, because they may work much better for your skiing. You can get excellent performance, and that maybe that slightly different wood inside may make the ski easier for you to use.
I can feel we should have made this a special episode all about women's skis, but Katie, on to you.
Just want to, I always have my hand up for ages there, and you were just totally agreeing with everything I'm thinking, because I'm no expert at all in skis, but I certainly have found that I don't know if this is a bit older or whatever, I love an easy ski. I really love an easy ski, and I can bounce around and be nimble, and I just love it. I don't want stiff and solid anymore. So I just think it's so dependent on your certain situation.
Okay, well, I think this has been really, really interesting. Hopefully, listener, you found it interesting as well. Right, we're just going to turn our thoughts towards Beijing. Less than 80 days now. And I think we'll find Dave Ryding is doing his first racing this weekend in Sweden. It's not a World Cup race, but he's obviously wanting to get a bit of practice in. We've got a World Cup slopestyle in Stubai. I think that Woodsy, Katie Summerhayes, Kirsty Muir should all be out there. I'm very interested to see that yesterday there was a snowboard slopestyle in Landgraf. And listener, if you listened to our last episode, you will have heard Simon Burgess's report from Landgraf, which is the indoor slope in the Netherlands. And Mia Brooks won that. And so that's a great way to start off the season in good form. And in addition to that, we've also got Bobsleigh, not something we normally cover on the Ski Podcast, but I think their World Cup starts this weekend. And Greg Rutherford has recently joined the team, and he competed for the first time last weekend. Graham, you mentioned that previously about Greg Rutherford. How do you think his prospects are of being the first Briton to win a summer and winter medal?
Well, it depends on the bob, really, and it depends on the driver. He's obviously got the speed off the start, and he can produce incredible power, and he can get into the bob, but it's whether we've got a bob that can be competitive, and we've shown that we can be close. We won a bronze in Sochi eventually, after the Russians were disqualified finally. It could happen.
Well, it'd be very interesting. Certainly be following that one, because that would be a great story as well. Just a reminder to you, listener, about our Billy Morgan competition. I've got a copy of Billy Morgan's either biography or autobiography. It was written with a ghostwriter called Drop In. Since our last podcast, I have read the book, and I've got to tell you, I really, really enjoyed reading it. I feel like I know Billy so much better now. I have interviewed him a couple of times before, but he really, it's what I suppose you might call it like a warts and all story. He's certainly not vain. He's incredibly honest. He sounds like the sort of guy you'd want to go and have a beer with, but probably not too many beers. There's so many great stories in there. So if you'd like to win a copy of that book, just tag the Ski Podcast on social or drop me an email, theskipodcast@gmail.com, saying why you'd like to win the book. Graham, I'm guessing you've interviewed Billy before?
I have interviewed Billy, and I have had a few too many beers with him on occasion as well. Does it mention in the book in Pyeongchang after he'd won his medal, where he ended up in a shopping trolley being kind of carted home?
Well, I said it was warts and all, and he does actually talk about that. Yeah, one of the many things that he's done. But, I found it really interesting. He talks about the imposter syndrome side of things. He's pulled off some of the first spectacular moves in snowboarding that anyone had ever done. Yet he got this real backlash for doing it. Just being criticised as just a gymnast and not a proper snowboarder. And I'd highly recommend his book. And obviously he ended up picking up the bronze medal in Pyeongchang. It's a really good story.
Fantastic athlete, and a really good guy.
Okay, let's move towards a close now. We've got a few reviews since our last episode. Rich B67, he's a user on Snowheads. He said, I started listening to the podcast and really enjoy them. Mike Pow, also on Snowheads, another great listen. Sofa to Slopes on Instagram said, want to get excited for the winter ahead? Listen to the Ski Podcast. Gets me through some long bike rides. And I'd like to thank Paul Finley and Johnny Goldsborough for buying me a coffee, which you can do at buymeacoffee.com/the Ski Podcast. Paul said, thanks for the kids' ski holiday travel advice and the continuing podcast. And Johnny said, I really enjoyed hearing Henry, that's Henry Schneevind on the podcast, getting really excited for the season. Fingers crossed. We have our fingers crossed too, Johnny. And Nigel Winters sent me an email saying, I do love the show. I only started listening just prior to lockdown. It's been great to keep up with what's going on in the ski world, out in resorts, travel restrictions, interviews, and what's new in equipment, etc. So don't forget, you can buy me a coffee. All cuff is appreciated. I enjoy all feedback about the show. So send me an email if you want to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That'd be great too. We also have a couple of stickers left. So if you'd like some for your skis, board, helmet or phone, just drop me an email with your address. But for now, I'd like to thank Switzerland Tourism for sponsoring the show and thank all of my guests today. Katie from Battleface Travel Insurance. Thank you, Katie.
Great to be here, Ian.
Al Morgan from Ski Kit Info.
Ian, thank you once again.
Also, Katie from Ski Goddess.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It was super fun. Thanks.
It's a pleasure. And Graham Bell and Sam Lynch from Perfect Turns app.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. So finally, I'd like to thank you, listener, for sharing your time with us. And until next time, goodbye.